Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're alive. I want to thank you all for joining me today. And if you can hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat. Once again, if you can hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat, and then we can get today's show started. And while I'm waiting for the ones to come in, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button. Please do that. That's one of the most important things that you can do for this video and for this channel. That way, YouTube will be sure to send out the notifications to those who are subscribed to the channel, and it will also allow this video to permeate throughout the YouTube algorithm. So that way, this video will get out to those who need to see it and those who are interested in this type of content. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell notification next to the subscribe button. And also make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms as well. Not just to let people know that I'm live, but it also has the same effect with the YouTube algorithm. So I see the ones are starting to come in. So now we can get today's show started. So excuse me, as you can see, today's show live stream is titled Brandon Johnson, Mayor Neglects Tension Between Black Chicago and Migrants. And as you saw, the title within the thumbnail of the video is Brandon Johnson is Scared to Tell the Truth. Now, last time I did a stream on Chicago, well, I've done a couple of streams, but one of the last times I did a stream on what's happening with the current so-called migrant crisis, which is a Joe Biden made migrant crisis, right? I discussed what was happening in the numerous migrant shelters throughout the city of Chicago, to which multiple Chicago aldermen got together holding emergency meetings to discuss the really, if we're being honest, the degenerate behavior occurring throughout these migrant shelters throughout the city of Chicago, right? There were a lot of reports of prostitution, of sex trafficking, right? Drug dealing, reports of guns being seen, as well as multiple reports of, loud midnight parties going on all through the night involving heavy alcohol drinking with bottles littering the street everywhere by morning. Right now, we fast forward to today's date, which is what, about a month or so later, and we still see more of the same happening. But now we're starting to see more occurrences of violence and fights occurring. Right. During the last stream, I discussed how, I believe it was in the Woodlawn neighborhood, a fight took place between one of the black residents and the migrants, to which one of the so-called migrants were blocking the driveway of a black Chicagoan, to which that individual, that man, asked the migrant to move the vehicle. The migrant didn't want to move his vehicle from the driveway of this man's house. And that led to, I believe the report said, close to 17 so-called migrants running down on that black man to jump him, which led to those 17 migrants being expelled from the migrant shelter system, not deported, but expelled from the migrant shelter system. Now, once again, we fast forward, more of this is going on, yet Brandon Johnson remains silent. He refuses to speak on this situation that's happening in between Black Chicago and migrants, and instead continues to preach a false message of everyone's coming together and everything's going to be all right, when everything clearly isn't going to be all right, and it's not all right. Now, recently, I believe it was 4 days ago, and we're going to get into this video first. Brandon Johnson, along with the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and multiple Illinois officials, they got together and held a press conference where they were calling on and demanding Joe Biden to expedite work permits for these so-called migrants so they can work in the city of Chicago. And what was really interesting about this scenario that took place was, it's about 35 minutes long, I want to say, the press conference. The question and answer session only takes up about 7 minutes of the press conference, right? So at around a 27-minute mark, the Q&A session begins. When the Q&A session begins, Brandon Johnson, you can see, is very standoffish. He doesn't want to be there. You can see he doesn't want to answer these questions. He comes off as very condescending, slightly arrogant. and just answering these questions with one liners and then walking away. So that's what I want to play for you right now is the interaction with Brandon Johnson in the press when being asked about the migrant crisis created by Joe Biden that's currently happening in Chicago. So let's get into those clips right now. I want to play that for you, and then we'll also show when ultimately Brandon Johnson just walks off. He abruptly leaves the press conference, without saying goodbye or, announcing that he's leaving. He just takes off in the middle of the press conference while J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, is in the middle of speaking or getting ready to take a question, right? So let's get into that clip right now, and then we're going to get into some more clips concerning the altercations that are occurring between Black Chicagoans and these so-called migrants, right? So let's get into the first clip right now. And also, very quickly, I'll rewind it back. That was only 11 seconds, but it's really hard to hear the questions being asked. But to be honest, if we're being honest, the questions that are being asked are irrelevant. It's really about Brandon Johnson's response and his standoffishness and just being really condescending and arrogant, right, with his answers. So here, we'll start that over and let's get into it. Mayor Johnson, you called with the Secretary of Mayorga after you wrote the letter about this very subject. How did it go? Did you give you any hope?
It was a good conversation. We have another one tomorrow.
Mayor, why wait until now to call for expedited work permits when the first migrants started arriving a year ago tomorrow? Is Chicago and Illinois behind the eight ball? Why did it take so long?
Chicago and Illinois is working together. I became mayor 107 days ago.
So, as you can see, he's really standoffish, just hitting you with one-liners and then walks off. Hey, man, I only became mayor 107 days ago. I don't know what you want from me, bro. And then just steps back. He's not really trying to engage with anyone. But then he does answer about two more questions. And the last two questions, he does actually speak a little bit more to the press. But I want to get into the last question that he was asked in his response to it prior to abruptly walking off.
Mayor Johnson, a few of the business owners that are around shelters in Chicago have complained about the activities around the shelters and how that's affected their businesses. Has that been addressed, or is that being addressed at all?
We're addressing all of it. And, again, the number of families that could help grow our economy, quite frankly, that number is endless. So to have businesses and, again, the full force of government at every single level is critical in this moment. And what I've always said repeatedly, that is my responsibility as mayor of the city of Chicago to bring people together. And we're doing just that.
That's not what's happening. You can't bring the city of Chicago together when you're ignoring the tension that's taking place between Black Chicagoans and migrants. You can't say that. And he's intentionally avoiding, and if I'm not honestly scared, he just doesn't want to speak up on it. And I get it to a degree, right? Not that I agree with him, but as a Democrat, which he is, and a diehard Democrat, obviously, he's taking one for the team. He's not going the Eric Adams route where he's being a lot more. Eric Adams is very vocal, or has been very vocal in the past, and very aggressive in his vocalness. Brandon Johnson is taking the more passive route of ignoring the more serious problems happening within Chicago concerning tensions and fights breaking out that we're going to get into right now very shortly, by just giving a standard response of, well, everything's going to be all right, and we're getting everyone together in peace and unity, and everything's going to work out. We're all going to be all right. That isn't true. That isn't true. It's very hard for me to respect a man that just won't be honest about the situation and what's going on in Chicago. Because if he's not willing to be honest about what's actually happening, then you can't have a reasonable expectation of things to change, right? You can't have a reasonable expectation of things to change if he's unwilling to be honest. Now, what we're going to get into next is when he abruptly walks off the press conference. But before we do that, Thank you very much, Black Voltron Reloaded, for being the first person to contribute to today's stream. I appreciate your support, brother, and for you always coming through. Black Voltron Reloaded stated, good afternoon and a big B1 salute to you, bro, tdhiphop Media, the moderators, and the B1 certified family. Thank you for staying on these anti-Black political, political sambos. Next, I got you, Black Voltron. You know I got you. And once again, I appreciate you for showing love in today's stream. That never goes unnoticed and is deeply appreciated. And also, a big shout out to my man Torian Rain Reloaded. I just seen him in here. What's going on, Torian? Big shout out to Torian for being in the building, or I should say being in the stream today. So now let's get into the next portion of this press conference, where you see Brandon Johnson abruptly walks off, right? As we've seen so far, he doesn't really want to be there. He's not really trying to answer any questions, right? He's being very standoffish, condescending, slightly arrogant, dropping one-liners and then just quickly stepping back, responding to questions saying, hey, man, I've only been in office 107 days. I don't know what you want me to do about it, and then walking off. And now what we're going to see next is J.B. Pritzker is in the middle of being asked questions, and then Brandon Johnson just abruptly takes off in the middle of the press conference while reporters still have a multitude of questions to ask him.
So that you're asking me, why are they doing that? I can only tell you it's a political maneuver on their part and indicative of the partisan nature of what the other party is.
Now, I just have to, just so you see what's happening. Brandon Johnson is on the right-hand side, right? That little shoulder that you see sticking out. And very soon what you're going to see is everyone in the back, they're all going to turn simultaneously because that's when Brandon Johnson just abruptly leaves.
Is talking about on immigration, they just don't want to get to a solution.
You see how everybody just turned their heads, and I don't mean to beat this point to the ground too much, but he just abruptly takes off and everybody kind of turns their head in shock, because obviously that's not part of the script for him to just leave like that. And then you can hear the reporter saying, we still have more questions for Brandon Johnson. We still have more questions for
get to a solution.
You see, the mayor's leaving. Unfortunately, we do have questions for the mayor. He doesn't want to face the truth. He doesn't want to tell the truth and face the fire that's happening in the city of Chicago concerning the so-called man-made Joe Biden migrant crisis, right? That's why he just abruptly took off like that. So as he takes off and he doesn't want to address what's really going on, in the neighborhood of Hyde Park, there's a lot going on because last Friday, I believe it was called the Lakeshore Hotel. They put 300 plus migrants into the Lakeshore Hotel without notifying the Hyde Park residents at all. They found out, the alderman of Hyde Park of that particular district, he found that on a moment's notice 2 days prior on a Wednesday. So that Wednesday night, he held an emergency meeting as he found out just 2 days prior that this was going to happen, and an eruption took place, within the press conference, or I should say within the meeting, right? So let's just get into that right now so you can see what happened and what's currently going on in Chicago.
As we begin here at 10 with the migrant crisis and a very contentious meeting between fired up residents and city leaders.
The city wants to house hundreds of asylum seekers at a hotel on the south side, but many residents who packed the meeting tonight say no way.
CBS 2's Jermont Terry is live in Hyde Park where that meeting wrapped up. Jermont.
Joe and Erica, the city says 2 more busloads of migrants arrived to the city just today. It's one reason why the city says shelters are needed to house 250 people or more at once. But the way that those in this community found out about this leaves just a bad taste in their mouth. In less than a week, this hotel off Dusabo Lakeshore Drive will soon house 300 migrants. And those living in Hyde Park, like Emmanuel Jackson, can't understand why.
I think it's a basic issue of notification and respect. If these type of wide changes are being made in the community in which we live, we should know about them.
And that's why hundreds packed this community meeting.
It's illegal! I am absolutely livid.
Fifth Ward Alderman Desmond Yancey called the community together.
I just got presented with this on Wednesday.
After
he just got presented with it 2 days before it was scheduled to happen. So Brandon Johnson and JB Pritzker couldn't even bother to let this man know, with at least, a few weeks time ahead of him to actually prepare his ward for what's preparing to happen. Literally at moment's notice, he's told, hey, this is what's happening. We're putting these migrants over here at the Lakeshore Hotel in your neighborhood, and good luck with all that. And now comes the emergency meeting.
he learned about the new shelter coming into his ward. While the hotel sits on Lakeshore Drive, it also backs up to this residential neighborhood here in Hyde Park, where there are homes and high-rises, and that's a sticking point for residents.
I mean, how do we know that these are not criminals coming into our community?
The city says currently 6,500 migrants are staying at 16 city-run shelters. The goal, get the migrants out of the police stations where the lobbies are overflowing.
You got 73% of the people homeless in this city are black people. What have you done for them?
I understand exactly the sentiment. What I am saying to you is we are all in the same city, so we all know that the black community hasn't had that level of investment, hasn't had that support.
I think it's important that we acknowledge the fact that Alderman Andre Vasquez, right, is publicly and openly acknowledging, saying that we all live here in Chicago, we're all from here, and we all know and understand that Black Chicago has not had the same level of investment and financial support that the migrant crisis is currently getting, that you have not had that same level of investment and support. It's important to acknowledge that, because then you have to ask the question, well, what are they going to do about it, right? Which currently is nothing. Because if we're being honest, Brandon Johnson never said he was going to do anything for Black Chicago. He was always very open and vocal, even prior to becoming mayor, about how he was going to take care of the migrants. And he was going to make sure he was going to do everything in his power to make sure they have a smooth transition. He never said that he was going to do anything for Black Chicago. Those words never came out of his mouth, right? But here is Alderman Andre Vasquez openly acknowledging the fact that Black Chicago has been neglected in the past and therefore continues to be neglected today. So when you see these things and you have stuff like this on a record, you have to be able to use these to hold these guys accountable, right? So there that is. And before we continue on, shout out to Black Logic. I appreciate your contribution to today's stream. Black Logic is the second person to contribute to today's show. He said, you're not on camera. No, not on camera today, Black Logic. Not today. On Wednesday's live stream, I will be, but not today. There are 466 of you all in today's live stream. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Please hit the like button if you have not already. If you're new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe to the channel as well and share this video out on your social media platforms. Now let's carry on now to the next set of videos. Let me finish this one out before we get into the actual altercations that are occurring in Chicago, right? Let's finish this one out.
We have existing people that also need housing.
Mostly families will occupy the two-level hotel. The city revealed Wednesday night migrants have been staying in some rooms since the spring, but now they will occupy the entire building.
Our building is getting a new grocery store. That we got public notification on that 3 months ago. So you're gonna change an actual hotel into a shelter and not tell anybody?
So, like he said, our neighborhood is getting a new grocery store. We were notified about that 3 months ahead of time. But you're placing a migrant shelter smack dab in the middle of our community, and you let us know this at moment's notice?
Now tonight, there's no word how long these migrants will stay in this new shelter here in Hyde Park, but with fall and winter right around the corner, it will likely be several months. Reporting live in Hyde Park tonight, Jermont Terry, CBS 2 News. Joe and Erica.
All right, Jermont, thank you.
None of these shelters are going to be temporary. All right, let's just have that understanding. None of these shelters are going to be temporary at all. But now, the most important part of today's stream that I want to get into, I want to get into the actual conflicts that are occurring, right? It's not just a matter of, the stuff that's happening around the shelters concerning, prostitution and crazy parties happening, alcohol bottles littering the streets and things of that nature. We're also starting to see an increase of physical altercations, right, between Black Chicagoans and migrants. We're starting to see physical altercations occur. So that's what I want to get into right now. There are 526 of you guys in today's live stream. Please make sure you hit the like button. That does a great deal for today's for the live stream. And also, I'm going to say this before I get into the video. You all know that I'm not one to press and stress supporting the channel by way of Cash App and super chats and things of that nature. But I will say this one. For today's stream, given the nature of the videos that I'm getting ready to play, even though in my opinion, these are not videos of any type of extreme violence, they're just little altercations. YouTube tends to view these things a little bit differently, and they play favoritism concerning these type of clips that I'm going to play. So please look out for me today with today's video, just in case YouTube gives me trouble. Okay, in case YouTube gives me a little trouble, I'll just say that please make sure you show your support to today's live stream, specifically today's live stream by way of Cash App at $tdhiphop, super chat, and as well as a super thanks and Venmo and all those other options as well, just in case YouTube gives me issues with this video. Hopefully they don't. But now let's get into it. So I want to pull this back up on the screen right now, right? And I want to go over and look at a few tweets and watch a few videos that connect with these tweets. So here's this right here. This took place right in front of the Standard Club, which has been the focus of my viral investigations in the city of Chicago's city taxpayer-funded deals with migrant hotel kingpin Remo Polselli. When I first saw this video, I thought it was from a third world country. I thought this couldn't be a major American city. I was wrong. Now, what you're going to see happening in this video, right? What's happening in this particular clip, and some people are, the jury's still out on what actually happened. I've seen some people say that this was a confrontation between migrants and the Black homeless population. I'm not sure if it was a Black homeless population or if it's just a brother who found himself in the mix of these so-called migrants. But the point that I'm making here is that I'm noticing and seeing a pattern from the first altercation that I was made aware of that happened in Woodlawn, where the 17 migrants that came out of the Woodlawn shelter attempted to jump one brother who just asked them to move the car away from their driveway, and then they tried to jump him. Now you're starting to see multiple situations are starting to pile up in which we have brothers that are getting caught, for lack of better words, if I may use slang, they're getting caught lacking. Right? They're getting caught lacking, and they're finding themselves by themselves in a situation where they're surrounded by these so-called migrants, in which fights are taking place where they're getting jumped and they're finding themselves outnumbered and they're by themselves. Right? This is starting to occur a lot more, and that's very unfortunate that this is happening. And Brandon Johnson is ignoring this stuff, right? He's ignoring this. So let's get into this clip right here. And this clip that you're going to see here that I'm going to play right now, this individual, well, let me just play it. Let me just get into it. And let me move this banner out of the way so you can see this better. So just give me a second while I remove this, and let's get into the clip. So as you can see, there's some sort of altercation going on. You can hear the brother yelling, "Let's go, let's go." Some sort of fight or whatever is getting ready to happen. And the brother's by himself and is just surrounded, right? He's by himself and he's surrounded. And what you're going to see now is that he's going to walk away. He's going to walk off. And the moment he turns his back and he walks off, these so-called migrants are going to start throwing glass bottles at him, trying to hit him with it.
Ve el café, el café, el café, el café. Van a buscar botella. Ay, el carro, ven. Ve la tipa.
They're throwing mad bottles at this brother. You hear how he just dodged that one? Let me go back. You see, he's gonna move out the way and jerk, and you hear just smashing, throwing bottles at him like crazy.
Fuck you! Let's go, bitch!
You see, she's over here ducking behind the cars as bottles are still being smashed or still being thrown at them, and you know you're hearing them smash on the ground. So there's that right there. And now let me get into another situation that occurred in a downtown 7-Eleven, right? And also, I want to thank those who are contributing to today's stream. Like I said, today's stream, it's a little more important, right? Every stream is important, but like I said, with the nature of the videos that I'm playing right now, hopefully YouTube doesn't give me trouble. But when you're playing videos like this of so-called violence, you know, which just isn't really that graphic, YouTube tends to give issues. Hopefully they won't, but the financial contributions to today's stream is needed a little bit more than normal, just in case, you know, just to look out for your brother. So I just want to say thank you very much to Brian S on Cash App. Thank you very much to Eric S on Cash App. Thank you very much to Trenton Makes on Cash App, and thank you very much Brandon G on Cash App as well. And also thank you very much Cutthroat Nash for coming through like always. Start blowing I can't say that, but thank you very much Cutthroat Nash. Thank you very much Cutthroat Nash. And also thank you very much Walter Wilborn. Thank you very much Walter, and everybody for contributing to today's stream. Thank you very much to everyone contributing to today's stream. So now let's get into the next clip. And also shout out to Val Williams as well. Thank you very much, Val Williams. And also there are 36 of you in the live stream right now. Please hit the like button if you have not already. Please hit the like button if you have not already. And thank you very much, Greg W on Cash App. Now let's get into the next clip as well, right? Let's get into the next clip as well. And this is a situation that occurred in downtown Chicago, in which there was a fight that took place in a 7-Eleven or outside of a 7-Eleven when some so-called migrants, right? They went into the 7-Eleven, they attempted to steal. And then what occurred from there is that the black staff members that are working in a 7-Eleven, they tried to stop them and ultimately ended up getting jumped, right? That's essentially what happened. Before I get into that here, I'll just pull this tweet up for you very quickly, just so we can give proper credit where credit is due concerning these kind of things, right? So this video actually comes from Jamal Green. As you see, Jamal Green is a reference, and the tweet reads, "It is a disaster. You talk about politics and votes rather than dignity and safety. Migrants looting downtown right now in Chicago. The migrants are stealing out of a 7-Eleven. When the black staff tried to stop them, they were attacked and others jumped in. Taxpayers were forced to spend $400 million so far to deal with this crisis. We need a real plan. It's ridiculous at this point." So let's get into this video right here of that situation that took place. Now that's a quick one. I'll play this one again really quick without sound, as I speak on a couple of other things. But this is a quick video. But that's what happened at the 7-Eleven. And the video that I'm going to get into next is an individual on YouTube who does news. His name is Sub X News, and he does news all throughout Chicago, it seems. And he kind of narrates the aftermath of what happened during that situation that took place at the 7-Eleven between the migrants and the black 7-Eleven workers, right? So let's get into that clip right now. And also thank you very much, Carla Lockhart, for always coming through. One member of the Splash Twins, Carla Lockhart and Val Williams. Thank you, Carla, for coming through on today's live stream. I deeply appreciate you. You know I do, Carla. So now let's get into this video right here.
So this is a hot spot for the migrants downtown. I think they're staying at this hotel, the Inn Chicago. As you see, they ain't got nothing to do, they're congregating. Right? They congregate over there, right? And the kids are on their laptops right there. And there was actually a fight down the street here the other day. So I guess one of the things that we got to start asking, besides housing for the migrants, which they're having it here, right? Right? You see that, right? They're all over there congregating there, right? Is things for them to do. Why are the kids sitting there on the sidewalk? It's 4:30 in the afternoon. Shouldn't they be busy? The adults, shouldn't they be busy with some either citizenship class or whatever it may be? That's the 7-Eleven they were fighting at the other day. So, and if you come here at night, there's actually groups of people here that hang out. So it's a pretty bad mix because you figure downtown Chicago, and this is, you could call this River North, probably. It's a little Streeterville, River North. It's a little mixed, a little bored. This is historically a rough area. I mean, they usually hang out right here in that alley there. So the thing I guess what I'm getting into is, again, we've spent all this money, and I get housing and food, but we got to start talking about what are they going to be doing. You can't just be letting them hang out, because then that's when trouble happens, right? So there you go, report from downtown. The migrants at the Chicago Inn. There was a fight here the other day at the 7-Eleven, and as you've seen, there's not really anything that the city's doing to keep these migrants busy. Take it easy, everybody. Bye.
So as you can see, this is what's happening right now, right? In the city of Chicago. Meanwhile, Brandon Johnson is refusing to acknowledge these things. He's refusing to acknowledge, these physical altercations that are taking place, the fights, the destruction. He's pretending as if none of this stuff is happening. And it's been a constant. It's been a constant. I remember back when the residents of Woodlawn were first protesting the migrant shelter being brought into their community, where a high school was taken over. They were worried, scared, and nervous, and were very much against the shelter being in their community, not because they're xenophobic, not because they're anti-immigrant, but because they were scared of people who have not been properly vetted all of a sudden being placed in their community. And exactly what they were afraid of began to take place. And you're seeing this happen at multiple shelters throughout the city of Chicago, where now these shelters are more or less, becoming project housings, on steroids, right? That's what it's turning into. These just degenerate centers where all type of foolishness and nonsense is going on. Fights are breaking out. There's, like I said, there's reports of prostitution. There's reports of sex trafficking, and nothing's being done about it. And the mayor refuses to acknowledge it. He refuses to speak out against it and to do anything serious about it, let alone take care of the actual Black Chicago residents, right? What is he doing to invest in Black neighborhoods in Chicago to get these neighborhoods to where they need to be? Nothing. He won't even speak the words Black Chicago, Black neighborhoods, any of that. He consistently refers to, and that's what we're left to assume he's talking about, Black Chicago, right? Because that's how benign neglect works, where you're left to assume. But whenever he speaks on Black Chicago, allegedly, I believe, I assume, right? He refers to Black Chicago as historically disinvested communities. He always says that, historically disinvested communities. He won't even utter the words Black neighborhoods, right? He won't even utter the word Black Chicago. But then again, why is that even an expectation when he told you from the jump? As you can see here, and I'm going to forever reference this article here, Chicago mayoral candidate Brandon Johnson unveils plan to support migrants. He wasn't even the mayor yet. He was the mayoral candidate. He told you off top who he was going to prioritize, and he never, ever, ever said Black Chicago was on that priority list. Not one time did he say that. So this shouldn't be too much of a surprise that this is going on, but at the same time, something needs to be done. This man needs to be held accountable. And I think it's important, as I end the stream out, to end it on that level. Going back to Cutthroat Nash's, I see he just super chatted again. Thank you very much, brother. Going back to what Cutthroat Nash originally said, the original super chat that I didn't want to read off publicly, but y'all know what he said. You got to defend yourself. Don't get it twisted. Defend yourself at all times and by any means necessary. But what I don't want us to do is fall into the trap at giving more energy to the so-called migrants than to the actual politicians, because that's a trap that's easy to fall into. That's a trap that's easy to fall into. When you find yourself in a situation, defend yourself by any means necessary. But don't ever fall into the trap of where you take your eyes off of Brandon Johnson and the aldermen and the politicians that have allowed this to happen, because ultimately it's only them that can resolve the issue. To a degree, it's only them. To a degree, it's only them. But realistically, it's only them. You got to get them out of the paint. You got to hold them accountable. You got to make them feel it. And I'll also say this in closing as well, because it was something that I was thinking about before the live stream started. As I've covered what's been going on in Chicago, as well as what's going on in New York, right? I have a lot of respect for Eric Adams. Though I have my strong critiques of Eric Adams, I got a lot of respect for Eric Adams because he at least he's not silent about what's going on in New York, right? And some of you that maybe live in New York, you might say otherwise, because maybe there are things that I'm just not aware of. But at least Eric Adams will pull up. Eric Adams will speak out. He'll pull up. He'll come to the little community meetings. He won't allow you to shout him down. He'll stand up for himself. But from what I've seen, Eric Adams will pull up and he'll be very vocal towards the Biden administration and things of that nature. Whereas you see with Brandon Johnson, he just kind of fades to the back. He doesn't want any smoke. He doesn't want to deal with what's actually going on in Chicago. He doesn't want to be honest and tell the truth about the situation. He's just kind of pretending like nothing's happening, right? So, I got a lot more respect for Eric Adams than I do for Brandon Johnson. So now in closing, I just want to thank a few of you for coming through today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Miss Black Panther said migrants should be deported if they are destructive or violent. I 100% agree. I think it's completely ridiculous that in that situation in Woodlawn, you had 17 migrants that attempted to jump one man, and instead of being deported, they just simply got kicked out of the shelter system. That's crazy. Shout out to Black Voltron Reloaded. I appreciate you, brother, for doubling down on the support of today's stream. You've got a ton of time-wasting trolls in the chat room, TD. Could you please hand me a wrench so that I can clean them out of here? I'll hold you down. I'll throw you a wrench, after the stream. I don't know. I can't do it right now from the StreamYards area where I'm at right now. Shout out to Cliff for the super sticker. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that. And please, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. There were 700 plus of you in here earlier. There are currently 658 of you in here right now. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. That does a great deal for getting the message out and the video out. And also, lastly, thank you, John Gullery, who always shows love on a super chat, but also showed love on the Cash App. And thank you very much, Greg W, for showing love on the Cash App as well. And thank you very much for Black Voltron coming through one more time last minute. Black Voltron says, y'all black folks out there in Chicago, New York, East, down South had better get these political raccoons out of the paint, or otherwise y'all will be like those of us out here in third world California. 100% correct. You got to get them in order out there, and that's why I make sure to put these videos out, to put these politicians on blast. And once again, I have to say in closing, we got to make sure that we're keeping our energy properly focused on Eric Adams. I mean, on Eric Adams in New York, but Brandon Johnson, JB Pritzker, and the actual politicians in Illinois and in Chicago. We cannot fall in the trap of putting all your energy towards so-called migrants. If you find yourself in a situation, make sure that you defend yourself at all costs, right? Make sure you do that if you find yourself in a bogus situation. But outside of the need to defend yourself, when that situation occurs where you have to defend yourself, we got to make sure we keep the focus where it needs to be. And that's on Brandon Johnson, that's on JB Pritzker, and that's on your aldermen, and that's on all your political officials. That's on Joe Biden. It's on the Democratic Party, because ultimately they are the reason that all of this has come to fruition and has come to be. So with all that being said, thank you all for joining me on today's live stream. I'm going to shut this one down for today. I appreciate you all for the support that you showed today. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. I gave my little kind of call to action to help me out with today's stream, particularly, and you all showed up. Hopefully YouTube doesn't give me any issues, but trust me when I tell you, I'm very humbled and appreciative at how you all showed up in today's live stream and showed love. So that does it for today's show. Hit the like button on your way out, and I will catch you all on Wednesday. After the stream is over, you will be redirected to Wednesday's live stream, in which I'll be discussing Kamala Harris, Black history, and how she does not care about slavery, right? That's what I'll be getting into Wednesday's live stream. And big shout out to my big homie, Mo Fax. I see you, brother, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.